Good afternoon. Today is March 10th, Friday, 2023. My name is Kemal Erkan. This is UMACO TV. We are here again for our weekly updates, and we have so many topics to cover. And I am gonna actually start. We are making some changes on our flow. So our CM, Revenue Cycle Management update, is gonna be our first one, and then we'll continue with our regular items after that. So I'm gonna have Christina Abrams to join me, and Christina has done this so many times in the past. So here is Christina.
Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. So Christina, thank you for joining us today. So we are, so I was trying to make your co-host and then I were back. Sorry. My bad. So I was just trying to make you co-host, which you can do your own presentation from there. So we are going to talk about patient inquiries. And now this is important for us because communication is everything these days, and the speed of communication is important. And the phone calls are not the best solution for our patients and for us. And then to make this more efficient, we have a couple different patient portals, and I know you are gonna go through those, so you're on.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me go ahead and share my screen here so that we can see. So just let me know. Okay, my name is Christina. I'm one of the client managers here. I'm just going to go over patient inquiries today. We have, so on the back of all of our statements that we send out for United Medical ACO, we do have this nice flyer where it kind of displays the different options that we have for online options. And as Kemal was saying, you know, over the phone, things are a little bit of a slower communication. So we do have online options available for all of our patients to take advantage of. So on this, we do have our billing at umusa.net website. So oftentimes patients may be trying to get a hold of us. Maybe they have any questions in regards to their statements. Maybe they're looking to follow up on a nutrition class sign up. Maybe they want to pay a bill. Maybe they've seen one of their payments might actually be missing from their ledger. So they want to make sure they can provide their payment information. Maybe they want an additional statement. So these are some of the options that we have available for patients to be able to utilize the patient inquiry so they can get those the answers that they're seeking in a timely or expedited fashion. So this is just a copy of our website. We do have a couple different locations here where you can get to the patient portals. And then we also have our phone number listed up top for it. If there's any questions in regards to a bill, patients still can leave us a voicemail. But we do want to make sure that it is a lot faster to go through online options that are there. And, you know, everybody's time is valuable for patients. We want to make sure that we're getting them the responses in a timely fashion and as soon as they can need them. So this is a copy of what our patient inquiry would look like on it. So patients can fill out their reason for their inquiry, and then we would be able to send them a message back showing that we've received their inquiry, as well as we can also provide them the responses to their inquiry. So this is an example of what one of those templates filled out would look like on it. So then we would have the reason for our call, or the reason for our inquiry filled out. So in this instance, I'm sitting, you know, I have a question in regards to my bill. I thought maybe it was going to be covered by my insurance. So one of our AR account representatives would be able to then review that patient's account and get back to them with a response right away. They wouldn't have to worry about the patient kind of waiting for it by the phone to see if they'll be able to get the phone call back on it. They'll be able to go about their day-to-day items, not having to worry about, oh, do I have to catch this call so I can get the answer that I'm looking for on it. So each of our patients, when they receive the patient inquiry, will get if they're including their email, will get a response back on it, letting them know that we've received their patient inquiry. And this is a copy of what that letter would look like in their email, letting them know that, you know, received an inquiry from United Medical Clinic of Delaware in this instance, and then it would have the confirmation number listed. Once the inquiry has been resolved by one of our accounts representatives, they'll receive a follow-up email back. So it includes their previous question on it, as well as the response from the representative. So in this instance on it, it looks like the balance was applied to the patient's deductible. So the patient didn't have to wait all day by the phone to find out that it was just applied to their deductible. So it's definitely a quick option and an easy option for patients to be able to get the answers that they need in a timely fashion. We do also have a new inquiry for our call centers for United Medical Clinic, as well as Christiana Institute of Advanced Surgery. So patients could also request for their appointments. Let's say they want to, maybe they had any requests for maybe like a supplement, or had questions in regards to maybe a medication. They can definitely fill out this inquiry as well, and then be able to go from there. So in this example here, Dr. Joshua would like to set up an appointment with Dr. Badillo so that he can maybe get a phone call, or maybe he wants to set up an appointment for additional supplements. So he would put his email, bestdog.drjoshua@umusa.net, into the system, and then we'd be able to send him an email back with his appointment information and have them scheduled for an appointment. This is just also additionally when you're on the website where you'd be able to find the patient information for the patient inquiry. And then details as well, if you wanted to, if you're calling about a statement, what information you want to have on file when you're going to send that patient inquiry. And then we also have options to pay online as well through the inquiry and through the provider directory. So in our provider directory, you'd be able to select which practice or which specialty you're looking for, and then you'd be able to search for your individual practice to make a payment. So in this instance, we're going to select for primary care, and then I'd be able to use our dropdown to search for United Medical Clinic of Delaware, and I'd be able to select the option to make a payment with them online. So again, a lot quicker, a lot easier than having to make a phone call to then try to make a payment on that when we have these online options available to our patients. So I'm going to stop sharing from this presentation, and I also have up our website. So as I was saying before, we do have the options available here. So if patients wanted to go to those inquiries, they could select for patients and select the patient inquiry box from here. And then we also have coming to, and I think, Kemal, maybe if we wanted to expand a little bit more for the United Medical Clinic and for CRIOS, or Christiana Institute of Advanced Surgery, how we're going to be doing that inquiry as well.
Yep, absolutely. So that was the end of your PowerPoint, right?
Yes, that's correct.
I just want to make sure that for those patients who are from United Medical Clinic and from CRIOS, so we have a new portal, and this is strictly for appointment-related issues, and it has a different link. So let me actually just share my screen very quickly. It's this form that we shared earlier, but what we want to make sure that we made some changes, and then there will be one more update on this website and also for United Medical Clinic website. When you are scheduling an appointment, you are able to just click on this first thing you see on the top right, and then it's giving you 3 different options, and we'll be able to get to the appointments either from our regular patient portal or from this new patient inquiry. So we want this to be used for any appointment-related stuff if it's not urgent. So if you have to talk to someone, that's going to take several minutes. I'm actually lying, it's more than several minutes. So it's going to take anywhere from 15 to 35 minutes. So instead of just waiting, give us time to just get your ticket. So let's say that you can actually get a confirmation as well. This way we can keep track of when you called, when you made this request, and how quickly we were able to come back. So like if you want to receive the confirmation, you click on this, and then this is for Christiana, and then you pick your doctor and reason for the call, appointment, or I'm a new patient, and the patient name. All right, so then date of birth is 05/05/2022. And the callback number is the only other thing that we need. And then email address is, I'm going to actually put the actual email here. So then as soon as you do this, and if it's not urgent, as long as you don't have to get this appointment on the same day, and if it's emergency, you don't need to go to the either urgent care or emergency room. But once you click on this, you will be receiving an email, and this is what that email looks like. It didn't come there yet, but there it is. Right. So you have your confirmation number. This is a 24-hour callback, and then we'll definitely be calling you back in that time frame. Now, it will definitely be if it's done before 2 p.m., most likely we'll be calling you on the same day. But in case if it's after maybe 4 or 5 p.m., then we'll be calling you next day. So we are going to actually make sure that we are promoting this and utilizing this. In the next several weeks, we'll probably bring this up, because one of the issues that we see is even if you have 3 or 4 times more resources, the calls are not coming evenly. They're not coming at the same, like they're not coming in different time frames. They're most likely coming at the same time, and answering these at the level that we are expecting, it's not happening. So, and it won't happen, unfortunately. So the best would be for us to call you once we get your ticket. And this gives us enough time to also check if there are any issues with your chart or account. So then when we call you back, we can actually do more. It will be more efficient conversation from both sides. Hopefully, patients will start using that, and we'll have less complaints, because I do, Kristen, one of the things that I do, at least for United Medical Clinic and for CRIAS, for all the patient surveys, if there are negative surveys, I personally call them and follow up with them. And I see one of the reasons is they're saying that I'm waiting for X many minutes, this much, that much. The easiest way is that open a ticket, let us call you, because if there's emergency, we can help you anyway. So hopefully we can make our patients a little bit more happier.
Yeah.
So now on the billing side, I know you guys have been using that for a while now, and is it becoming more and more like the default?
Yes.
Place?
Yes, it has been very beneficial to our patients on it, because they don't have to wait in between. We do have some patients still that do call in via voicemail, and we do create those tickets for them. So that way we have record of every inquiry that comes through via phone or online. And it helps us, our patients. The inquiries definitely help, because we can get all the information up front for the patient. As you were saying with the other calls, we can double check everything. If we need to make a call to the insurance company for the patient, we'll have all of that squared away for the patient up front before we call them back, as opposed to, getting into it, letting them know, oh, I'm going to have to call you back on this, and then having to go from there. So it definitely saves time, and it gets the answer to the patient a lot faster, as opposed to kind of the callbacks and forth.
What about the clients? How are they taking this? Are they also promoting this?
Yes. So the clients that I have been working with, I know they let their patients know if there are any questions in office. They definitely direct them to the website. That way they can put in the inquiries, because they also have faith in, they do see the inquiries, or if there's any questions in regards to an inquiry. Since we have all of that information, we can provide that. So their faith in the system, I think, has continued to grow with ours as we've been going through, working through this, to get the inquiries through. So I think it's been very good. So I'm hoping that we'll see more.
Yeah, from the personal side, I mean, when I call, if I have an option to open a ticket, that's my first preference. So as a customer or like as a patient. So in some cases, we go outside of our network. So being on the phone is like just being on hold is really, it can be annoying, but there's an easier way to do this, so that we can have more people utilizing this. Well, Christina, thank you so much. I know you
Thanks
have
for having
been
me.
in this show for at least 2 or 3 times before. But
Yes, I think so.
it's always fun to have you, and
Oh, thank you.
then
Happy to
we'll
be
see
here.
you soon then. And then we'll go
Thank
ahead
you.
with our other items, and Sean is going to join me now. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Mr. Donegan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Very good. So we have our COVID updates. We can start with that because we have a lot of items to cover. And then today we have our Bariatric Friday at 3 p.m. with Dr. Ergal. And let's start with the COVID and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So good news here with COVID from a case standpoint and also mortality. It is, again, remaining status quo. We're not seeing any large surges. We know we're entering spring here, and people may be out traveling as the weather starts to warm up a bit. Today is not too warm particularly, but hopefully in the next couple weeks or so start to get a little bit more warm and you'll see people out and about. But as for right now, the cases are remaining kind of plateaued at this number, and it's good because it's a low number, so you don't want them to plateau high. But we also do track COVID in the news, as we mentioned. So some of the updates that we're seeing here regarding COVID in the news is the U.S. to end the testing requirements for travelers from China. So we know there was I think a few weeks ago, we were mentioning the travel restrictions that they weren't letting anyone in or out when they had that one surge. I know China had that one day total, I think it was like 34 million. 37, yeah. So I think it was like over a month ago when that happened. But we know there was traveling restrictions during that time, and then they phased it down to just the testing requirements. But now, most recently, they're actually going to phase that out, and it's just going to be, I guess, open travel. So obviously, that's good, positive direction right there. And then one other thing we saw in the news was the credibility crisis with the late night hosts. So the late night talk shows. We know when COVID first appeared back in 2020, President Trump was saying that it was obviously originated in China. There was a lab leak, could have been intentional, we're not sure, but where that origin was. And the late night show hosts, I'm sure you're familiar with their type of programs where anything that's popular in the news and the media, they try to make obviously jokes material regarding that. And the stances that they took on that were kind of shooting him down and kind of rejecting that lab leak theory and the fact that you can't blame China. We don't know it's from there. And that was kind of the humor.
I think we do know, right?
So the irony behind that a few years later is that their jokes, I guess, obviously weren't accurate. So those
people who make you feel like you're stupid when you are actually disagreeing with them because disagreement is not in their mind. So you don't think that they really don't think that you can have a different opinion and you can have a really good base just because they're always right. And that's the liberal media is always doing. So that's
kind of their way or the highway type approach. So like I said, just ironic, a few years later now we see that when the FBI released their investigation, we mentioned this last week, it was moderatively likely, and then it was very likely that it did originate in a lab in China. So that we just wanted to put a little bit of light on that regarding, as we always mention, the media and what they kind of present to us and sometimes what they intentionally withhold. So that was our news regarding the COVID media in the news.
So I think it seems like also Dr. Fauci is going to be kind of in trouble. Seems like, although he's too old, but we'll see. Because there was now, it's pretty much, it's a fact that there were things that's available. I know, like the problem that I have with this whole thing is, why does it matter where it's coming from? Like, we know that we have to do certain things. Why would you hide that? I mean, I don't know if there was any good reason. Well, if it's coming from China, if it's still doing what it's doing, that's all I care, right? So I'm not worried about if it's made here or if it's coming from animal or if it's coming from an air balloon or whatever it is. It's happening. Like everything that happened was still going to happen. So why would you hide that? What would be the purpose? Yeah. What would be the
no benefit really?
Benefit of that? So it just never made sense.
I agree.
But so there are a lot of things that don't make sense that's happening anyway, right? So
Very true.
with that, we can go to our next item that doesn't make a lot of sense is woke culture. So we are going to actually cover different topics similar to the climate change, just because we want to get in trouble. So let's start.
Sure. Yeah. So this is kind of also piggybacking on the what the media is releasing information wise and kind of what's being presented to the public. And this week we're focusing a little bit more on the cancel culture behind that wokeism. So as I'm sure some of you are familiar, cancel culture is kind of just trying to any celebrity or brand that may be popular in our society that may not agree with that wokeism.
Well, let's call it destroying culture, not cancel, right? Cancel is kind of like really innocent. So if you are canceling, I'm going to cancel my appointment tomorrow.
Yeah, sure.
Versus I'm going to destroy the person I'm going to meet tomorrow are two different things. So cancel is so innocent.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So even right there, they're phrasing on trying to make light of what they're actually doing. But yeah, so the cancel culture we have here again is just a lot of celebrities and even brands that might not necessarily fit that I'd say agenda, but their ideals behind that woke culture and their progressive ideas and kind of what's all being behind them supported. And as we mentioned last week, a big part of that was obviously with gender and the racism and any disparities seen regarding that is kind of what's behind most of these cancelings that we're seeing. So in the slides here, there's a couple examples where you'll see celebrities who a lot of the times it's stuff actually happened, over a decade ago will just somehow resurface and someone will find that and say, oh, because you did XYZ 10 years ago. I mean, obviously there are examples that are obviously tragic, or.
So, as you are going through this, like the one really big name comes to my mind is Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, sex offender.
So, and the thing that was happening with him was more than 35 years ago. Whether it happened or not, and then who did and how, all that stuff. But someone as talented as he is, and now he's gone.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm saying that it's not a cancel culture. It's destroying way of destroying other people. And it's his show. Actually, I was really into that. What's the show? The House of Cards.
Yeah.
So now after he got in trouble, everything is destroyed. So not only he was destroyed, the people who were in that team, that whole team is gone. The whole show is gone, all the obligation. But then what happened was something that happened 30 some years ago. Now, how serious that is, if it really happened, who did it, who started, where are the parents? When you have a minor, and then the minor is staying somewhere else, and the parent doesn't know what's happening with them, well, I think they have obligations.
Yeah, so responsibility there too.
But go ahead.
Yeah. I think also with that, obviously, like a lot of the celebrity examples we have here, like you're saying, it may have been like sex offender crimes they had years ago. But thinking about that, there's some that obviously you'll see, like the Kevin Spacey example, did get shut down. There's others who we know, like the media maybe tried to have that happen to that necessarily didn't. So I know like the one podcast host, Joe Rogan, they tried getting him off the air because of something he said years ago, but it turns out they were taken out of context where he was repeating something that somebody else had said. So he was quoting that.
I thought we had the freedom of speech.
You thought, right?
So
to an extent, there's some threshold. Like that's what it is with the wokeism. They kind of pick and choose what, and the fact that you're seeing it like again resurface 10 years ago or something is kind of just going against, like you're saying, the freedom of speech and kind of expressing yourself. So like again, this isn't all the examples here because there are some people who were guilty of doing crimes and obviously were then shut down, went to prison, jail, whatever that may be. But also the sense of the example we have here, some of the brands and even like professional organizations. So you think about like the syrup company, like the Aunt Jemima, they took the woman's face off the bottle and changed the name to the Pearl Milling Company. Uncle Ben's with the rice, they took him off because they're just making these connections between the branding that's being presented on the label itself, and then what they think is associated or what the meaning is behind that. So even like some professional sports teams, the baseball, MLB had the Cleveland Indians. They changed their name to the Guardians. They thought it was offensive to Indian people or Native Americans.
So we are rewriting the history.
Yeah, so they're changing the team names, like Washington Redskins, now the Commanders. So, but one of the things with that I did point out is it's interesting on which ones they chose. So if you think about like Cleveland Indians or the Washington Redskins, you say Native Americans are the ones who are feeling maybe oppressed or offended by that. But then how come all the team names didn't change? So some of the other examples you'll have, like obviously the Florida State Seminoles is named after the tribe. So or Notre Dame Fighting Irish, like I guess technically I could say I'm offended if me being Irish, that you're saying that Irish people are angry and fight. Like,
Over it, right? As long as it's not an insult, even in some cases, if it's an insult, what can we do? Right? So if someone is insulting, then just don't participate with that person, and that would be. But if, of course, if it's happening in the, let's call these utility media, like openly, if someone is cursing at you on Twitter, there are certain rules that we have, or on TV, or this, and if someone is spreading lie, disinformation, so that's different. But like I was born and raised in Turkey, so Turkey, see, now I have to be careful, because if someone is watching from Turkey, then they're going to blame it, and then, well, you didn't call it the right way. So because it changed, because you are used to one way, right? So it's not a big deal. Why are we taking ourselves too seriously and then just make everything so like it's been so uncomfortable these days, where you can just have a regular conversation with people.
Yeah, it's like you're walking on glass. Yeah, very fragile.
And it doesn't have to be that way. And also maybe the way that people who are creating some of these situations, I think they become more powerful / more demanding. The one that we have, Rachel from last week, right? See, we forgot her, Levine, Rachel Levine. So she still has opinions. She is saying that I have to participate. Like celebration is not enough. Now I have to participate in what she's going through. Well, I have zero interest in what she's going through. Well, to a point, then are we going to say at some point, like diabetes is not a disease anymore, it's just your identity? Because you can identify with diabetes. There are some disorders, psychological disorders, that is, because if you're not going through the whole gender transition surgically, you are not going to use the same bathroom with others, and you're not going to compete with the other people, like with the other team. You are not going to ask for equality. That's just unfair. That's not natural either. So it's against the nature. So like the way that we are, like actually I was going to bring up a couple of the slides, but didn't have time to make them. And I know you were working on the others. So think about Serena Williams. She's an extremely powerful tennis player. She's an extreme, like she's a powerhouse, like she's very strong. Any player in the men's team in top 200 would easily be able to beat her with no, they wouldn't give any sets. Now, if you look at all the Grand Slams, so men has to play 5 games, best of 5, not 5 games, but best of 5. And women have to play best of 3. So the guy has to be on the court for 4 hours to win that match, when Serena Williams can win that match in her league in 55 minutes. But then they're asking for the same equal price. Like they have to be paid the same, but they didn't work same. So why don't we ask them to pay and play 5 sets, best of 5? So this is not happening. So, but I think we want to be more on the cancel side. So what's happening with Kanye West? Is he going to be canceled? They couldn't do that with him, right?
No, I mean, I know
but
recently, so I think what you're referring to is when he had the anti-Semitic remarks But most recently, though, I know he went like missing, like no one, he was just out of the media's eyes for like a month or something. So not sure where he went.
He also deal with Adidas.
Yeah, with the Yeezy,
Sneakers, yeah.
the Yeezys, and it was actually a big revenue income stream for him when he landed those deals. I know he also, I think he tried doing one with Gap also afterwards. That wasn't as successful.
Mhm.
But
So, another way of looking at it is, why don't we let people to make that decision? The customers.
yeah,
Like, let's say,
they decide not to buy the shoe. That's their choice.
yeah, like if I'm really bothered by what he's doing, then I just
you
won't buy
personally.
whatever he's doing, or
Mhm.
I won't listen to his music. We can actually make that, but problem I have here, the decision is made by others.
Mm.
Like someone is telling me that, oh, you can't listen to this
Yeah.
because we don't like this anymore.
Mhm.
Well, I may disagree or I may agree with that, but that should be my decision, not your decision. Right. So
Mhm.
this is where the problem starts, and no one should be making, which a lot of other stuff that we are talking about is coming from the same, like when the Twitter was banned during the COVID time with the Hunter Biden issue that we are going to talk about. That was the censor was there to say that you can only process this much information. I'm going to give you that. Well, that's not your job.
Yeah.
That's no one's job. You'll be able
Right.
to process that.
Yeah.
So that's where they actually have the problem. That's where the issue is. Now, yes, one of our Alp actually is texting me, Grand Slams pay same men and women, but they had to fight for that. So they said equal pay. That's my point is they are not equal because they're not working with the equal conditions. I have to do best of 5 versus they have to do best of 3.
Right.
In my case, I never got to that point. So
he opted out. Kamal said he opted out.
I did.
He was busy. I know with the WNBA versus the NBA, there's a big, it's the same kind of debate right there. But one of the main things is the revenue it brings in, where if you look at the ticket sales and even just the deals you have with broadcasting systems on television, where you'll see that NBA games, the revenue they generate is way exponentially higher than what the WNBA brings in. So there's been debates on that. And I think they say if you want equal pay for like the amount of revenue that you're bringing in, that actually the women players are being overpaid. If you're doing it in correlation to the revenue they bring in, they should actually get paid cuts. But
no, I want to make one. I want to differentiate something. So if it's not, if the conditions are same, for example, for United Medical, our second person in charge is a female. And after me as the owner, she's the most powerful person in United Medical. So because that doesn't require different physical ability to do the job. So it's all with your brain. So then, of course, that person is going to be paid at the same level that anyone else is going to be paid, regardless of their gender or religion or this or that, because that's different. But when it comes to sports, when you are competing with your physical ability, then that's where this becomes more important, and that's what they are missing, and that's where we are not going to participate and celebrate in that case. One of the really is what we are creating. I think what already has been happening is so bad in a way that what's the basketball lady, the Stephanie Greener,
Brittany Griner.
Brittany Stephanie. Okay, so Brittany. So that's why it didn't come up. So I was just typing for Stephanie. I'm like, you see, like this is what happens when you get COVID. So she was awarded after she's a drug smuggler to a different country. This is illegal in every country in the US and others. Just because Russians did it, she now is a hero. I don't think so. Okay, so I think she's. Just people need to remember that this person beat up her partner 5-6 years ago. She was banned from the league for several weeks, 7 weeks, I believe. She's a drug addict, and And she's stupid that she was taking the drug to a different country. I mean, it's one thing that you smoke, but the other thing is that you make stupid things with that.
Yeah, international border.
Well, you should be smart now. But now she's a hero. She's being awarded. I think it was with, and I was so upset when I saw. I believe it was with Serena Williams. She was in the same category as Serena Williams. That's pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, she's still criminal. Please don't, idolize her, and then don't push this out of our way to say that, okay, this is what you are going to like. She may be criminal, but I want you to think differently. That's what this whole cancel culture is coming from.
Yeah.
The motivation, the origin of this is we are imposing what we think on others. And if we want people to just process things the way that we do, which is not going to happen.
And yeah, I think with that too.
So we'll be canceled after today.
Right. I think with that too is I'm sure there's been many people before her that have been caught trying to cross an international border with drugs, and there wasn't a big media outcry for Joe Schmo to be brought back. It's just because of her status as being.
Well, if you have a good PR company, why not? Right. So there was a, well, you may not know the movie, but I'm sure you'll watch it after today. There's a Midnight Express. The movie is about this guy who was smuggling drugs in Turkey in late 70s. And it's like 2 or 3 kilograms of heroin. So, and he got in prison. He was tortured probably, rightfully. And then he came out and he became the hero. And then he wrote a book. He made the movie. So he made a lot of money. And then people think that Turkey is so evil because we just tortured this drug addict, smugglers, dealer. So that's where this whole thing is just, I think I have a problem with a lot of things that's happening these days where the double standard, if you are powerful, you are right. So you don't have to be right to be right. So it's just how powerful you are. So, you have more power. So you can get away with, which is bringing us to our next item, right?
As you were just saying that, what just came to my mind though was the whole thing with so you're thinking the more money, the more power. If you think about what happened with Epstein and the island and how there's certain high up people that were just never like that list they had in the court, you just never heard who was on that list and who visited the islands. I'm sure there's people that
and then he
are high up
supposed to kill himself.
In
a suicide watch, right? So
right.
So all right, now our next topic, how are we doing with time?
Yes.
So this is kind of like a therapy session for us. So it's not just covering these things, but we also want to talk about some of these because it is bothering.
So this does relate kind of closer to home here, where we have a similar example in regards to, I know we have Dr. Yergau and he was working on a book. I'm sure you'll be able to enlighten everyone a little bit more than I can on
so
that.
The book is going to come out soon, I believe. So the press release just went out. No, I don't actually have, do we have the date, actual date?
No, so I didn't see it.
It's done and it will come out. So this is a book that's written by Dr. Erkan. So it is regarding Tigray, Ethiopia situation, conflict, and the unspoken tragedy, which we covered this so many times. And Dr. Erkan and I, we did 4 live sessions for Tigray. So all we were trying to do is get people's attention. From our Senate, for local senators, anyone from the Congress, and any other people, our friends and others, we were trying to get people's attention to this. And it was so difficult to really engage people. And the countries also were not really doing anything either. So many people, so millions of people displaced. They are in different places. Millions of women, kids were either raped or they're killed, and nothing happened. Because there's nothing in Tigray. No natural resources, I guess. No nothing, zero. And we let Ethiopian government to kill all these people in Tigray. So Dr. Erkan, he is one of my best friends. He wrote this book. He started writing this book during the pandemic because we had some time. Things were kind of slowing down, and then he was spending more time at home. And because he had this experience, what was happening in Tigray in 2019, 2020, and on up to now, he had something similar with his dad back in the 80s when there was a civil war in Ethiopia. And he lost his dad. And this is, I read this 2 or 3 times, I would say, probably 3 times because I had to give feedback. And I knew the story, but I didn't, it's just like every time you read it, you have a different way of kind of understanding a little bit more. So we are going to probably bring him one of these weeks to talk about the book. But biggest problem is the hypocrisy that we have from these countries, who's helping, when they're helping, and who they're helping. So you may remember when Ukraine crisis started, the news media was saying that, oh, they are just like us, like blonde, blue-eyed people, so we have to let them in. Well, we see what a British Prime Minister is doing these days. He's refusing any entry into his country. Like we are talking about like a couple hundred people. Well, there are about like 6, 7, maybe 8 million people in Turkey from Syria. And then 200 people becomes a huge problem. But then when it comes to Ukraine, everyone is up in arms. Jill Biden is serving soup in Ukraine. I mean, come on, like, what the hell is wrong with you? So why did you not have that same sympathy to the people in Tigray?
Right.
So they are Christians, if it's about religion, right? Is it the color of their skin that made you not to go there? Why do you care about this versus that? But these people, the people from Ukraine, were Russian 10 years ago, 20 years ago, right? So they were our biggest enemies from the United States standpoint. So why do you love them so much now, right? So it all comes down to the same issue of double standards.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the underlying theme that you're seeing here. Regardless if it's like you're saying, the war here, Ukraine versus in Tigray, you're talking about the media and who they're choosing to cancel. If you're talking about the media and what news they're trying to give out or withhold for that matter, you're seeing a double standard, that kind of hypocrisy and the actions that are being taken.
So, and I saw the same thing in the earthquake with Turkey. And, you know, I see how much US was helping. The total damage to rebuild the area of earthquake is about 40 billion. So US gave about 100 million. So now Azerbaijan helped more than US did during this time. Azerbaijan, like, compared to US, Azerbaijan is the country, and they helped more. But then just about the Black Sea, there's a country called Ukraine, and then we are giving close to 150 billion. So now let's start with this Russia-Ukraine issue. And now this is a difficult one to cover from where we are. We both live in this country. We are both American. We love this country. But this doesn't mean that whatever we do, there are two parties, and then they will be talking about the opposite things on the same issue, where we want to make sure that people don't understand this in any different way. I'm in the middle. So I have social issues, I'm more liberal. Financial issues, I'm more conservative. That's it. So now I don't have to convince anyone. I don't have to, I don't have to put any effort to change someone's mind. All I want to say is that let's try to understand why these things are happening and what we are doing. Is there any reason why Russia is doing what's doing in Ukraine versus why we have to be involved, and how much do we have to be involved? So we have to understand that unfortunately, most Americans, we don't really read anything outside of US. We think that Afghanistan versus Ukraine versus let's say Nigeria, they are just saying to us. And if you ask someone, they won't be able to place it on the map. But it's not like that. So Ukraine is part of Russia. And most of Ukraine wants to be with Russians. They speak Russian. They are, especially the Donbas region, is they want to join Russia. Just the political party is there. It's bringing this problem up. But then we also need to understand why Russia needs this extension from their point. I'm not saying that they're right or wrong. So there was NATO in the Cold War. It was so strong where you have to actually you have to be on one side, otherwise you will be gone. Now, after the Cold War, there's still NATO, and then NATO was not working or wasn't doing much impact. And then Trump was going to probably just dissolve NATO. But now all of a sudden it becomes more important because Europeans need NATO, because it's kind of almost a military extension of European Union. Yeah. So, but then why are we doing what we are doing there and why we are spending? Because now Biden is asking for tax increases. That means everything that's being spent is going to come out of our people, including us. And that's why we are worried about this. Because 150 billion is what we know. There may be several hundred billions that we may not know. Just like we didn't know about Hunter Biden's situation, we were in a denial because it was being censored and it was not being shared with us. Now, going back to Russia, their pipeline is structured and hub through Ukraine to Europe. Right. So now it makes it so important for them to have control over what's happening, and then because otherwise the NATO border is becoming now there's no buffer between NATO and Russia. So access to open water through Black Sea, this is another major issue for them. Now the thing you may say, well, why do they have to give up? Or like, if we were right there, if we were in Europe, United States, yeah, we have to fight, but we are not. Yeah. Why am I taking? Is this Biden's choice because he was in business with these people, or is it the United States decision? And I don't think it's the second one. So now the other thing is that how President Erdogan from Turkey, how his efforts are being dismissed by Western countries when he's the mediator, and when he's trying to say, okay, well, we can actually solve this problem without the war. And he was being dismissed. No one wants resolution to this because maybe people are making they're benefiting out of this most likely. So so in order to keep doing our job, so we have to probably stop talking at some point so that we are not getting in trouble, right?
Well, sure. I mean, just a soft way to wrap that up, as you're saying, there's probably could be an agenda that's benefiting people that's not obviously being announced in the media on, what's going on behind closed doors type of thing. But as you're saying, even like if you think back to that pipeline, the Nord Stream, and what was initially released, and all of a sudden it was just subtly mentioned that, it's a planned operation. And I think there's definitely more to it that the public is not being made aware of now and probably may not be made aware of for a long time, if ever.
We'll never know, right? But what we are trying to say is that we have to be alert. We have to do our part and try to read and understand why these things are happening, what's the motivation, what's behind these things. There's always an issue. So again, with Ukraine and the Hunter Biden connection, and then I talk about Chris Hines, John Kerry's stepson. He actually stepped out of the board or the partnership with Hunter. But it's not that innocent. So it looks like that, but it's not. So because they have another business called, so very quickly, another business. Let's see. Okay, got it. It's Rosamond's. Rosamond's. I can't read my own handwriting, so it's bad. Rosamond's senior partner. So this is an investment firm. So this company is doing a lot of oil business in the United States. So the reason Heinz guy stepped down from the board is not because he didn't want to get into the corruption business, but he was actually doing the corruption safely because they have to do business with US through this other investment company they have, which have oil business in the United States. So we can actually give more information next week. But this is like, every time you see that something looks so innocent.
No, there's definitely a reason. Yeah.
So, all right. I know we have our other sessions going to start in a couple of minutes. Anything we want to add?
I just think, again, the underlying theme that we're seeing, just to keep in mind what's being made available to you. And then sometimes it takes a little bit more digging and research, but when you start finding out things and you peel back a couple layers and you can kind of start making those connections, you kind of get enlightened a little bit on certain things.
So we really don't want this double standard, and we are not going to actually obey to the double standard. Hypocrisy is something that we are going to fight. So because we dealt with this in our healthcare business, big hospital systems like Christiana, they tried to crash our business. They still try to do that. They kick us out of the hospital in their way. So then we find different opportunities. We have our surgery center now, and then we have our ACO. It's not like if we were just obeying, then we were going to become employed by Christiana Hospital, right? So that's not going to happen. So this is same thing applies to the politics and other global issues. We really need to see what's behind these problems before we take our position, and also make our positions accountable. So if we have all these corruption issues and no one is in jail, then that means the system is not working, right? Definitely. So either rehab or jail. So then some rehabs are too comfortable. They're like 7-star hotels. So that doesn't work. So jail is where they should be. But that should be, unless we see that, it's not going to be, we know that it's not going to be right. Just like what's happening, which we'll probably cover that next week, what happened on January 6th. The video footage is totally different than what we were given, because we are just being told, okay, this is how much you should know, then this is this little area that you should be playing. Then as soon as you're outside of that, you're in trouble. Well, I don't think so, right? So anyhow, Sean, thank you for joining me, and Christina earlier was with us, and thank you, Christina. And Dr. Erkan and I will be doing our Bariatric Friday in the next couple of minutes, starting at 3 p.m. So we'll see you guys soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.